While the race pays most of the points, qualifying could set you up for success. America's National Park of Speed hosts our competitors this weekend as we get ready for the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America GT3 Cup qualifying. I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Joey Atterbury. Joey, it really is wonderful to be back here at Road America.
And not only to be back at Road America, but look at the weather that we've got today. Let's take a look at the track map. We are located about an hour north of Milwaukee, 4 miles, 14 turns. America's National Park of Speed. In qualifying, a couple key corners to look out for. Turn number 1 is a high-speed, high-commitment corner that you really got to roll the speed through. But turn number 3 sets you up long down that moraine sweep straightaway. That's a crucial corner. As always, the carousel and the kink, identifiable corners here at Road America. But then turn number 12, heavy brake zone, and it is uphill from there on out. Turn number 14, you definitely have to highlight because look at that long front straightaway that we've got here at Road America. Not only long, but uphill. You want to maximize the exit so you can minimize the lap time.
And now, you might watch the track and say, well, aren't there supposed to be more cars than that? There will be. This is Group A. We will have Group B joining us after the 20-minute session here for this group, and then they will combine those times to give you the grid order. This is the outlap that the cars are on currently. Looks like we've already had at least one car have some trouble as the 282 had a moment down at turn 5. We don't know what exactly happened, but that is Nick Schaefer, who is continuing on, thankfully, as we see our first few cars now head through turn 1.
And not only the first few cars, but we've got some of our fastest hot shoes leading right now. So that's Carl Stout in the 243, and then I believe that's Riley Giacomazzi directly behind him. These two drivers have been up inside the top 5 the entire season long. So if we're looking for some fast laps, especially some reference laps here in qualifying, I have a feeling we're about to see them.
I agree. And it's not just those two, but Matt Siegel has also been fast. Now, he's going to be in Group B, so we won't see him for a bit, but we'll see what kind of marker these two can put down as we follow along with the drone. Look at this action shot coming up underneath the bridge into turn 6.
Very cool, as that's lots of elevation going into the uphill, and then now through turn number 7. Watch the track now dip down back in elevation. The cars are about to pop up on the left side of the screen. That is turn number 8. Feeds us into this long carousel. Look at how long that right-hander is. And it is continuously downhill. I believe this is the 295 of Brandon Hankins that we have jumped on board with.
Had a little bit of an issue for Dan Drowan down at turn 1. Car spun. He's got it going once again, thankfully, as we continue to ride on board with Brandon Hankins, also competing over in the USA West Series. Thankfully had a little bit of a break before he had to get back in the car here as we return to Carl Stout and Giacomazzi down into Canada Corner.
The drive up on out is so crucial. In turn 13, high speed, high commitment. You see no brake lights really going through there. Maybe just a tap from Riley as he just trying to get everything warmed up. These Yokohama tires, excellent right out of pit lane. However, I feel lap 1, lap 2, lap number 3 potentially could be the best.
Yeah, we saw that earlier on in the other qualifying sessions, but on the board, it is a 2:10.0 for Carl Stout. However, Danny Jashelski has been looking quick on the other sectors in the lap, purple in 1 and 2. He's another one that is in here that has been quick, and there you go. He is the first one to break under a 2:10.
And you saw that white and green 243 kick up a little bit of a dust cloud on the exit of turn number 1. Now, we do have lots of runoffs on the corner exits of several of these corners here at Road America. Some of them you can definitely use for your advantage. Some of them are purely there for a runoff perspective just in case you do get in trouble. Turn number 1, you can abuse that track limit, and I have a feeling we're going to see a purple Sector 1 from probably Carl Stout here momentarily.
Giacomazzi, actually took it, and then Danny Jashelski has taken it away. So all of them really picking up speed in this sector of the track. Watching the Belgian fly through turn 7, one of the fastest corners on the circuit, very steeply downhill. And on board Giacomazzi, a lot of input on the steering wheel.
That was definitely crossed up there through turn number 7. I wonder if there was any dirty air from that drone kicking up the front of that car.
Hopefully not that effective from that drone, but he certainly was brave getting close to these cars coming down through the corner. Gave us some very cool shots. And yeah, you're motioning to me. It looks like Jacques Amasi has his hands full with how this car is set up.
And now the carousel, that was another big moment in the kink. Now, of course, you want the car to turn and loose as fast. It's just up to the driver how comfortable they are with how much yaw angle the car actually produces. I was going to say the carousel is so long that lots of times the drivers are going to get a little creative and kind of play with the car balance a little bit, and so that might have been a little of what we were seeing, but it also just tells me Riley is comfortable with a loose race car.
Danny Jashelski is the comfortable one. He's gone purple Sector 1 and Sector 2 again out of everybody. Of course, Carl Stout's going to be the first to cross the line. He flashes past, gets it down to a 2:09.3. Jashelski only has to make up 100th of a second.
And I can tell you he will set, yep, there it goes, 2:08.7. 0.6 faster than the lap that Stout just put down. I was just reading off the sector times to myself over here, and a pretty significant advantage for Jashelski throughout the entirety of the lap, but mainly in sector number 1.
That's Hankins on screen. He jumps up to 4th with that latest lap. But let's not forget about the Masters class. Mark Bowden, who is our current points leader, is currently our quickest in this session. Now, his main rival, Elaine Scalzo, will be in the next group. So we won't get to see if he manages to match that for at least another 15 minutes or so. Both of these cars really dancing on their way down into the braking. There is Jashelski in the bright orange.
And this is going to be potentially a compromised lap for Jashelski. I believe that is Mark Bowden directly in front of him in that 2:46. Now, it's kind of a double-edged sword. You had asked about the draft and the Cayman qualifying a little bit earlier. I think that Road America, you want to be by yourself so that way you can focus on your own marks, on your own laps. However, if there is a car that's just out in front of you, you can get the benefit of that slipstream.
It's a good point. And as we watch them come around through the carousel, he's definitely going to be feeling some of that aero wash through that long right-hander and through the kink. But then they'll start to pick up speed here. Whoa.
Oh, my goodness. I think he is going to bail out of this lap right here. You see him probably off the throttle. He had a huge wiggle going into the kink, and you saw all of that extra runoff. Thankfully, that was there. He used up every single piece of width of racetrack out there, and then some was out in the dirt on the exit of the kink, and he has officially abandoned that lap. We'll probably focus on turn 14 and try to square up a new one.
By the way, only one of our 14 cars did not set a quicker time last time by. So yeah, the tires are very much coming in. The track is coming to the drivers. It is getting warmer on the circuit at 88 Fahrenheit on the pavement right now. And I think I just saw Jacques Amasi brought it into pit lane.
I was going to say, that's the one outlier, is that Riley did not improve that time by. So the 296, that green machine, has officially hit pit lane. I see him trundle down on the pit lane speed limiter right now. There is still 10.5 minutes just shy of that left here in qualifying, so this could be a strategy of set the car in pit lane, maybe let everything cool down, talk to the team, talk to the driver. Hey, is there areas that we can improve? How can we improve it? And then potentially go back out.
And can we talk about Frank Vitiello, second in the Masters class? This is a great result for him. We still have to wait for the rest of the field in Group B, but I'm mighty impressed with the way Frank is performing today.
And he actually set that as one of his first flying laps, that 2:11.6 that we're referencing. That is about 1 second off of Mark Bowden in that Masters class pole position. But like you said, we still have the entirety of that second group to come.
Keith McGovern goes up to third most recently. And I'm not seeing much in the way of green sectors for those at the front of the field right now. So I do believe that we're seeing Jashelski, Stout, Hankins, those guys start to back off, try to get the tires a bit cooled, prep the car, and ready to go. This is Mark Bowden on screen, though, and he is showing also not quick in either the first or the second sector right now.
Now, it doesn't seem to be personal best, and here's Carl Stout, and you can just tell from the attitude of the car, not on a heater as well, this white and green 243. But this is the decision time, right? All of these cars have put down some serious qualifying laps in terms of their effort, and now they have to evaluate it. Do we have the speed to potentially gain more time, or do we simply bring it down into pit road? Because remember, these tires are worth speed in the race.
Exactly. They're going to have to put these tires on when they get to race time. If you feel like you can't improve, might as well bring it down, which is what Carl Stout has elected to do. Tuschelski's still showing out, but I don't think he's gotten to pit lane quite yet. In fact, he just went by us in the commentary booth. Brandon Hankins, though, agrees with Carl. He's going to come down and have the crew give a look at the car. In the meantime, the 214 of Todd Treffert decides to carry on. Todd currently sitting fourth in class as we now turn our attention to Danny.
This is turn number 3 here at Road America. One of the most important corners as it leads you out onto this long straightaway here. And trust me, as a driver, you got plenty of time to think about the rest of the lap, and you really have to focus on those brake markers on driver's right-hand side, on the fencing. Pick out your brake point. You see the nose really dive into the pavement there, hard on that brake pedal pressure to get it slowed down to one of the slower corners that we've got here on track.
And same thing there with turn 6, more than 90 degrees as you turn left down the hill. So far, not purple or green in that first sector for Tuschelski. Second sector, we still need to wait a few corners to try and see if this will make up for that. Danny's been an interesting story if you're new to this series, because he came in last season, started off in the Cayman cars, which is the slower class of the two on our Porsche Sprint Challenge weekends. And then halfway through the season, decided I'm doing good enough, I'm jumping up to the Cup cars, and found immediate success. Now, he left to go race in some other series the first part of this season, and as he's come back, he has immediately been quick once again. Still not green in that second sector, interestingly.
He still seems to be on it, but I'm with you. I do not think this is going to be an improvement on the lap time. Something I did notice on our side of things on timing and scoring, Riley Giacomazzi has opted to go back out onto the racetrack. Remember, he was the first car that came into pit lane after those first runs of putting the laps down. So evidently the 296 either feels like there's a little bit more speed, or could say, you know what, maybe I'm going to drive a little bit different in turn number 5 or take turn number 7 a little bit differently and see if that can net me a little bit more time.
Last lap, still a 2:09.7 for Danny, so it's not exactly slow. It's about a second off of his fastest time, but you compare that to much of the field here in Group A, and he's still massively quick.
I mean, it still put him inside the top 4, right?
Exactly, yeah.
No, yeah, he's always one to watch out there. And I mean, how many times have we seen the duels between Tuschelski and Stout come race time? I have a feeling we're in for another one.
Now, we talk about those duels, though, and so far, much of the time, when those duels start to happen, it's been Matt Siegel who picks up the pieces. And like I said, he's also been very fast. It's not just that he is taking the scraps when they offer them. He's also been in the mix. So keep an eye on him when we get to the second group of qualifying, which we have about 5 minutes left in this one. We'll get a short break in between, and it'll be right back into the action. And again, all the times will be combined into one grid.
Now, this is Frank Vitiello. We were talking about him not too long ago. He currently holds down second in the Masters class in the qualifying effort right now. His fastest lap time is still that 2:11.66 that he's chasing. I can tell you that sector number 1 was not an improvement, not a personal best here for Frank, but everybody has a little bit of a different, call it style or approach to qualifying. Some drivers want to go out there, put a banker lap in, put their effort in, and simply get off of the racetrack to save their equipment for later. However, some drivers like to go out there and get into a rhythm, right? The more that you get into a rhythm on the racetrack, the more consistent you can be on the lap times, and that can pay dividends later on in the week and potentially come the race this afternoon.
And you know what? That second in Masters is not necessarily safe. Todd Treffert just went personal best in the first two sectors. He only needs to make up a quarter of a second to overtake Frank. So I'm keeping an eye out for that 2:14. It's going to be a white and blue machine out on the track that should come by us actually pretty shortly here. Like you said, doesn't look like Frank is pushing right now and is maybe setting himself up for one last go.
Yeah, Frank's Sector 1 time was about 2 seconds off, and then Sector 2 time was about 4 or 5 seconds off. And Joe, oh my goodness, I'm going to call you Miss Cleo because Todd Treffert just took over that P2 spot.
Indeed, by less than a tenth of a second over Frank. Frank now tries to respond. Danny Dashelski has since brought the car in. So now amongst our front runners, it is only Jacques Amazzi out there. Nick Schaefer, who sits in fifth, has also returned to the track after he had his scary moment earlier on in this qualifying session. Much of the Masters class is still out on circuit as well.
That's a great point. You're right. The Pro-Am guys have mainly brought it down into pit lane with the exception of that 282. But all of the Masters except Bowden are out there on the racetrack. And we talked about you got to have these tires come race time. Going to be very, very interesting once Group B hits the racetrack and we do officially set our grid, see how everything shakes down. But Bowden right now looks to be in a very good spot.
Interesting to note that Riley, I don't think, set another fast time when he came back out. He had an out lap, and I think it was just right to an in lap. So curious as to what they were doing out there as we got a car slow. This is the 248. Is that Frank?
That is Frank. Now, it's a little bit of an oddity to be way out there slow like that. It kind of screams maybe a turn 6 issue, or simply he saw somebody in the rearview mirror and was letting them by.
We're hearing he may have had a bit of an off or went wide. So that explains why he was slow, having to abandon this lap. He should have enough time to get back to the start-finish line to start another one, as the 214 of Todd Treffert is definitely hustling the car. You see how much curb he took there?
I mean, even in turn number 5, when we came to him, he was bouncing all over the curbs, and that's up to the driver's prerogative, right? Are they comfortable with the platform jumping it over those apex curbs? And you got to remember, jumping is only the first part. You still have to land the car, and as long as the platform stays stable, it will be confidence-inducing for the driver. It's just how much can you take?
Unfortunately, it did not give him a better lap time as he does not improve. Last attempt as he heads down to turn 1. Certainly seems like he's not backing out of it the way he's hustling it into the corner.
Usually you can see that turn number 1 brake zone is right about where the driver access road, a little bit of an escape road on driver's left on the front straightaway. That's the rough, call it brake marker down into turn number 1, and then a little bit more of an eyeball on the driver's left side concrete wall going into turn number 3. And then it gets a little bit easier, Joe. Here into turn number 5, you got the clearly identifiable 500, 400, 300, 200 brake markers hanging on the fence there on driver's right.
I have to admit, I like what I'm seeing from Todd in this qualifying session. Really seems like he is comfortable out there pushing the car to its limits. His first sector, unfortunately, not really showing what we're seeing out of how much hustle he is taking, because it's still not his personal best in Sector 1.
Not his personal best, I agree with you. However, it wasn't too far off. It was a 37.7, and the fastest purple out of anybody was Danny Dashelski at a 36.9. So you compare those two, they're in a little bit of a different category when it comes to the lap times. I do think Sector 1 is representative for what the 214 will do. However, you still got to put together all of Sector 2 and all of Sector 3. And if you're just a little bit behind in that first sector, you have to make it up, which can be difficult.
Nick Schaefer here, sporting a very iconic red and white chevron livery on his JTR machine, as he still sits in that 5th spot in the Pro-Ams. Needs roughly a quarter of a second to get up to Brandon Hankins. We now have the checkered flag as the session for Group A is over, but all drivers on a hot lap can complete this. 214 is amongst those, the 248 and the 282 still on track.
Watching this JTR machine here. Goes down through the carousel. This is the 282 of Nick Schaefer that we are watching. You see all of that extra runoff there at the carousel exit, completely usable. At the kink, probably want to stay off of it. It doesn't really extend further down the racetrack. Some of these exit sections that they have paved over, they really run down the racetrack, and that's where you can really take advantage of using that extra width.
Keeping on the throttle as you get on early. You can see the checkered flag next to the 214, which means he is done. Did not go quicker on that latest lap. Even still, collects himself a second place potentially. Not only does he have to worry about Frank, but he has to try and watch out in case anybody in Group B goes quicker. But these two are clearly not going faster as they are pitting in.
And I think that's pretty much going to leave us with everybody done with this Group A qualifying. The checkered flag, like we had mentioned, has been out, and now all of the race cars are officially off of the racetrack.
And for your first group, Danny Dashelski is your fastest in the Pro-Ams with a 2:08.7. Mark Bowden is going to be your quickest in the Masters. Here's, again, unofficial results right now because we do still need to see the next group. Dashelski ahead of Stout, Giacomazzi, Hankins, Schaefer, and Gafrov in your Pro-Ams.
Over in the Masters, at least for the Group A, it is Bowden out front, Treffert, Vitiello, Keith McGovern there in fourth, Dusek, Neal, Drowan, and Shermer rounding out those 8 cars.
Stick around. We're just going to take a short break for a couple minutes, then we will be back with Group B and GT3 Cup qualifying.
When we began racing, we started with a question. Can a dream become a legacy? Across endless nights, relentless rain, competition that never slows. Through every failure, every win, every single race, we've asked ourselves, can a dream become a legacy? And 75 years later, the answer is clear. Because we weren't built for racing, we were born for it.
Welcome back to Road America. We're getting ready for Group B and the GT3 Cup qualifying here for Porsche Sprint Challenge North America. I'm Joe Peak with Joey Atterbury. While we wait for the cars to get on track, we talked a little bit about the championship rivals. I had mentioned Carl Stout, who finds himself well ahead, honestly, by actually I think it's 130 points or thereabouts. I can't do the quick math, but I can tell you that it is over 100 right now over Matt Siegel and Riley Giacomazzi. So Carl's probably not under any threat. However, Joey, if we look at the Masters, I mentioned Bowden and Scalzo. That is 9 points between them, and they have only been off the podium, the pair of them, mind you, total 3 times.
They have been very, very consistent in terms of their speed at each and every racetrack that the Sprint Challenge has gone to this year. And remember, just for everybody out there keeping track, Bowden is our current provisional Masters class pole sitter with a time of 2:10.66. So that is what Elaine Scalzo has seen on the timesheet, and that is the time that he is going to go out there and try to beat. Todd Treffert is P2 in that class at a 2:11.5. So there is a little bit of a gap right now between P1 and P2, and I'm sure Elaine Scalzo also sees that, but I think he's got his eyes set on potentially a 2:09.
He knows that he needs to worry about Bowden. They do have Todd Treffert behind them in the points, but it is more than 100 points behind them as well. In fact, I think it might be more than 200 behind them, or at least close to that. In the meantime, drivers are making their way to the end of the pit lane where they will be held for just a little bit here. Then they're going to be released for their 20 minutes of qualifying. We're up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit on the track surface. The good news is, even though it is August up here in Wisconsin, which can sometimes be a little bit muggy, right now only a beautiful 75 degrees air temperature.
Now, I'm going to put the shoe on the other foot, Joe, because I have been in one of these race cars somewhat recently, and let me tell you, even mid-70s, when you get a completely sealed car, you put the Nomex on, you put the fire suit on, you put the balaclava on, you got the helmet on, you're strapped into these cars, and you see several of them with the doors open, the crew members still talking to them, and that's just to simply get some airflow inside of these cars.
And I guess for our viewers that might not have a point of reference, you were telling me some of your training regimen as you're getting back in the car here, and you're a pretty fit guy, honestly. But it seemed like even you were feeling it after, what was it, 15 minutes in the car?
Oh, man. Yeah, we're going to go there. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, training is always incredibly important to make sure that you are capable to withstand the temperatures and the fitness level that you need to be in a race car. That's incredibly important. But I think the more important thing is the more you're inside these race cars, the more you're acclimated to that environment. So it's not necessarily about doing cardio workouts or sitting in the sauna and sweating everything out at 125 degrees like it could be inside one of these race cars. I think that the drivers that actually spend more time inside their cars, whether that be on practice days, practice sessions, test days, whatever it is, that's actually what you want to do because that makes you more comfortable, right? You're not only comfortable with the heat inside the car, but you're getting comfortable with how the car feels underneath you. What's it like to threshold brake all the time when sweat is just pouring off of your body? So, yeah, you definitely have to be fit to drive one of these race cars, but I'm a firm believer of the more time you spend inside of it, the better off you are.
And also consider the fact our Pro-Ams run the gamut of many ages, but we have a lot of younger drivers, especially at the sharp end, who are 16, 17, 18 years old. They're still very young and very spry. Meanwhile, that master's class, you have to be at minimum 50 years old to compete in that. And that to me is impressive, is some of these gentlemen that are up there in their years that are still managing to do these impressive physical feats as we wait for the signal from the end of the pit lane. I saw a few cars definitely with the doors open as they tried to get at least a little bit of airflow into them, like you said, because this is making it quite hot inside the car itself. But again, if you're just joining us, our quickest time at a 2:08.7 is your marker.
Yeah, I was going to go through. I think really the one that we were picking out, especially with the championship points implications, was definitely Elaine Scalzo. I believe he's the 222 machine, and he's lined up third right now. He's that bright blue and orange car, and there you see we officially have a green flag on the racetrack. The cars are being waved out onto Road America.
This is their out lap, so we won't really see much that we can read into, at least at this stage. Be more about preparing the car, warming the tires, and getting ready. Also getting yourself some room out on the circuit. So you'll see probably some of those towards the back of the field, maybe going a bit slower than you would expect in a race car before they fully get up to speed. And that's some of what this weaving is to do that we're seeing these cars doing down the hill towards turn 3 is getting the warmth into the tires, because everything about these cars is designed to operate within certain temperatures, the tires especially.
Yeah, and if you don't get those, or I should say, if you don't get the equipment into those operating temperatures, you're simply just not getting the maximum performance out of the car. It's not like it's going to drive poorly or just be incredibly slow. It's just that you're not getting the exact 10/10ths out of the race car. And when we talk about qualifying, that's exactly what you want to do. Maximum performance, minimum weight. Let's see how fast they can go.
And these things do get going pretty darn fast. The GT3 Cup cars, massively quick, especially at a circuit like this with so much power.
I was just going to point this camera shot out. We see actually the undulations in the brake zone on the racetrack. So you see all the rubber that's actually laid down from these race cars, but you see dark spots and light spots, right? And that means the car is actually compressing or bottoming out or getting into the racetrack more in those heavier, darker spots, and then is slightly unweighted going into those lighter spots. And it's just a characteristic. Not everything is perfectly smooth, and the drivers have to deal with it.
That's a good point. I mean, you deal with these Midwest winters, and the track is going to get a few irregularities. Thankfully, they did pave this a few years ago, and the track has seen a lot of grip return to it. As with it being smoothed out on that front, it is slowly working its way back towards nature, trying to do its dirty work on this pavement. Coming out of the carousel now onto one of the faster parts of the track, down through the Kettle Bottoms, lowest part of the circuit, very much covered amongst the trees on either side, although it looks like the shade not making itself to the track for the most part at this stage before you slow down into Canada Corner. Then it is just a couple turns up through Bill Mitchell Bend and out of turn 14. And you return to the start-finish line where some of our drivers are just making their way now. The 267 is our first car in line. That's going to be our first measure of who is quick today, and that is Matt Siegel.
And that was actually one of the drivers that I was just about to mention. You see him go under our start-finish tower here and start his first time lap. So 2 points here, 17 minutes remaining, right? That was a 3-minute out lap. These cars are doing, call it 2:08, 2:09 in qualifying. So definitely a very, very long out lap, just making sure everything is put together. Matt Siegel, oh, that was a loose moment coming out of turn number 3, dipping the left rear into the grass. Thankfully, he held on to it with some very, very fast hands. But Joe, oh my goodness, that was a moment.
Well, the question is, does he stick with this lap now, try and get that banker in, even though he's been severely compromised on that stage? He's being followed by the 240 machine behind him, who's not seemingly caught up at this stage. So hopefully he can keep going. Blake McGovern is in that 240 car that's sitting and hovering around the rear as we watch him head down to the braking of turn 8.
And since you had asked, I do believe that he will stay on it, simply because this is the first actual timed lap. And if you're out of shape in turn number 3, there could be a couple things going through the driver's head. Typically, you use up all of that racetrack width on exit there, so it's not uncommon to drop a wheel. However, maybe a little bit more uncommon to be really, really loose in that section. And so the driver could say to himself, you know what? I'm just not got this thing completely warmed up. I need to stay on it this lap. Let's put down a lap time, and lap number 2 will be better.
As we'd expect, these are going to be mostly green sectors for everybody this lap. However, I'm keeping an eye out for any purple, and I think that's to be expected that we're not seeing any yet, because as we saw last time, the tires kind of ease their way in. Second lap, likely to be the money lap for these drivers to try and set a good time. But where will Matt be in comparison to guys like Dyshelski and Stout and Jacques Amazzi? 4th overall right now. Not too bad considering that off.
And I think that's actually very, very representative of the first couple lap times that Carl Stout and Riley Giacomazzi were able to put down. They were both in the high 209s in their first effort, and Siegel, once again, this time in turn number 1, using up all of the racetrack, plus some grass and dirt on the outside.
Not common to see him make mistakes like this, especially so close together. Not sure if he's just pushing a little too hard or if he's exploring where the limits can actually be, but Matt Siegel is maybe trying a little bit too hard. How about Jens Hansen, who moves himself into 5th overall just behind Siegel on that first lap? We talked about last time we saw Jens, it was a joy to see him back up towards the sharp end of the field after he struggled a little bit adapting to this car, and it looks like he is immediately on it here today.
And for those that are unfamiliar, what Joe is talking about is Jens Hansen was a Cayman competitor last year and really dominated that Sprint Challenge North America, had tremendous speed in those Cayman cars, and has jumped up to these GT3 Cups here in 2026. And yeah, I think that he's firmly got, call it his sea legs underneath him. He is firmly on deck now and understands what the car can provide him. And you're right, jumped up into the top 5 immediately. And I think more importantly, to echo what you were talking about, these next couple laps should be even faster.
It's looking faster for Siegel. Personal best, Sector 1, Sector 2. Still not seeing any purple amongst this group. Now, it's going to be slightly warmer, but I wouldn't think enough that it should affect these cars that they can't get quicker lap times, sector times, than those around them. But we'll wait and see as we watch Matt head up the hill. And we are stepping over to Dave Musil in the meantime.
This was another driver that I was going to mention here at the beginning of this Group B qualifying effort. I think that Musil Jr. has a great amount of speed, especially been building on it here in 2026 as we see Matt Siegel take his real first lap out there. The first one was a banker. The second one a little bit more representative. Puts him inside the top 3.
A little bit of a wide moment there from Musil. He's coming up the hill all the way to 5th gear now. And as he crosses the line, he does not improve his position. And in fact, it looks like he did not go quicker either that time. In the meantime, Jens Hansen stays in 5th, but down to a 2:09.6 that time by Tony Melito, 2:10.2 as he crossed the line.
Just want to give a little bit of an update on what's going on in the Masters category right now. It is Joel Johnson in the 2:27 that's actually the fastest in this group in terms of that class. A 2:10.7. That's very, very close to that Masters pole time right now that Bowden had put down, currently at a 2:10.6. And I believe we're getting some shots of now Jens Hansen on the screen. I got to say, this is a beautiful color that the 225 is.
It always kind of wows me, especially when you get into the sunlight like this, because it's kind of this interesting bronze. When it's dull out, it'll look kind of dark and just a little muddy, but as we got a car slow coming into the carousel.
Siegel?
I believe it is.
And so if it's slow going into the carousel, that generally trends. Oh, no, that's the 206 of Alex Pratt. This looks to be at the exit of turn number 3. This is where we saw a couple of cars get out wide on driver's left, and this one spun to the inside on driver's right, so it could have certainly started at that driver's exit point.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, that I wonder if maybe he tried to keep it in the throttle and he found some of that dirt on the outside that disagreed on whether the car should grip. Thankfully, did not hit anything and gets it going, and I don't see a whole lot of grass on the grill. That's the important thing.
So back to my point about the Masters class, we were really trying to highlight that 222 of Elaine Scalzo. So he used the bright orange and blue car out there. It's himself and Bowden that are in that championship fight, and we were really kind of setting them up, see if Scalzo could take away that pole position. But right now, has slotted into what is 3rd place with a 2:11.3. So he actually has quite a bit of ground to make up, about 3/4 of a second to try to find that front row.
Joel Johnson with a green 2nd sector. The 227 just headed out of the final turn, coming towards the start-finish line. Is he going to be able to run down Bowden? Because he only needs about 0.07 of a second. And yes, he does. Joel Johnson is now your pole sitter in the Masters.
A 210.4 out of the 227 machine. Nicely done right there. So, like you heard Joe saying, a new provisional pole sitter in the Masters class currently as we keep our eyes on this 206 of Alex Pratt. And then here comes the 224 machine as well through Canada corner. So, Joe, I'm not seeing a whole lot more green sector times being lit up right here, and that's very representative of kind of what we saw through the first group, right? It was kind of the first 10 minutes that we saw those lap times being put down, and then there was almost a little bit of a breather in the middle of the session before we saw some of the Masters class cars start to put down some fast laps towards the end.
You're spot on. So I anticipate that we'll see things try to pick up again here at the end. We'll see if anybody still has anything left in it. Clearly, Joel Johnson feeling quite fast today, as he actually had his first podium of the season, second race at VIR last time out, but had a bit of a struggle early in the season, just not getting the results that he thinks he could get.
So this is the replay of the spin from Alex Pratt, and all right, yeah, and you know what? That was totally okay to get back across the racetrack simply because he had the line of sight. It's just spun out on exit there, and it's just trying to get to the throttle as soon as possible. That's what the driver is trying to do in that section of the racetrack, and maybe just got out from under him a little bit too much. We do have a yellow flag in one section of the racetrack right now in turn number 9.
I'm showing the 225. Yeah, they're stopped in the carousel right now on the outside. Now, there is gravel out there.
That's Jens.
Oh, no. So after it was looking good at the start of this qualifying, is he now going to be out of it? And if he does cause a red flag in this, his 2 fastest lap times will be deleted. Car has not moved recently. I'm sure he is trying his hardest to get it going.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any eyes on it. I wonder if we can see it from maybe one of our drone shots to see exactly where this car is. And I think the question mark for me is typically when we see a car stopped in qualifying, we would go full course yellow. Oh, just as I say that, red flag on the racetrack.
Yeah, remember, they can't send a safety car out during the qualifying. It wouldn't really do much good, so they effectively have to stop the session as a whole. Now, and he made it way out into the gravel. So this was not just a simple spin. This car must have really snapped on him.
I don't see that it has made a big impact in any of the tire bands, right? I don't see that it's been pushed in anywhere. I do maybe see a little bit of deformation in the sand, but could also just be from the shadows that we're seeing. So I think your guess is pretty good. So the carousel is such a long corner, and you're actually entering it at 4th gear. So a pretty high clip in terms of speed. And it's up to the driver to really balance the car, balance the weight on the front, balance how much traction you're trying to put down with the rear end of the car, and maybe just got out a little bit too wide. That's the other thing about the carousel, is that if you get out too far out, drivers left, it can almost feel like the track is sucking you out into that gravel track.
I really feel for Jens on this one. Like I mentioned, the rules will unfortunately remove his 2 fastest laps, so he's probably not starting in that 5th position as it will be.
I was just seeing that I do think that the car is okay. Did you see how buried the rear tires were? Which tells me that Jens tried to grab a gear and pull it out of the gravel trap, which usually means it's not a very big incident.
Yeah, no, it looked like even if he did touch the wall, it would have been pretty minor from the pictures that we were seeing. Again, speculation because we don't have a replay up here yet. Regardless, at least the car is looking okay, and no, we won't be able to get to see that one, unfortunately. Now, with them still working on getting the car out and only 5 minutes left, I'm not confident we'll be able to restart this, but...
Well, here's the thing. Remember, I called it out. Our first laps we're at the 17-minute mark. Now, they can hustle in terms of an outlap, but I think that's our reference point, right?
Mm-hmm.
If it's 3 minutes to go or more, you can get cars to start another lap. If we are under 3 minutes, if we're more like 2.5 or under 2.5, I feel like that's really the cutoff time.
Well, I'm watching our images behind the scenes of that car being recovered, and it's still not out of the gravel trap. So we've got a minute and a half maybe before they are effectively going to call it. So we'll wait to see what race control decides and how quickly that car can be removed. Honestly, Road America's is one of the quickest crews, but unfortunately it looks like they also do not have confidence in race control about being able to restart this as they've called it, and that is checkered flag. Now, everybody did get a chance to get a representative time in, at least as far as I can tell. So highly likely these times will stand. They will not have to go back to practice or championship position to set the outside row or anything like that, like we'd seen at previous events. So here is how Group B winds up. Or excuse me, this is the overall that we are looking at. Danny Dashelski provisionally is your pole sitter. Carl Stout will start beside him, really. Matthew Siegel in third with Riley Giacomazzi fourth. Jens Hansen probably will have that time to lead it, although he is right now scored in fifth. Tony Melito sixth, Brandon Hankins seventh, Alex Pratt eighth, Dave Musial Jr. in ninth, and Nick Schaefer in 10th. There's just a couple more. It looks like Blake McGovern, Gofferov, and Schmid, the last of our Pro-Ams. What about our Masters, Joey?
It was Joel Johnson that took away that top spot from Mark Bowden, so the 227 of JDX Racing is your pole sitter in the Masters class, a time of 210.4. Mark Bowden is going to be second in class. Elaine Scalzo, that championship fight still very much alive between himself and Mark Bowden. He lines up in third place. Todd Treffert's going to be fourth in class with Frank Vitiello in fifth. Keith McGovern sixth. Bill Fennick back here in seventh. Dave Musial in eighth. Dan Ammon is going to be in ninth with Matt Dusek back here in 10th. There are a handful more. It's going to be followed up with Neal, Drowan, Shermer, Hinkle, Tartaglione, and Smith in terms of the 16 Masters class entries.
Well, sadly, it is a premature end to our qualifying. The racing is not done yet today. Porsche Sprint Challenge USA West will kick things off when we come back at 1:25 p.m. Central, so don't miss it here at Road America.